this is exactly what I'm dealing with while I'm trying to film for you guys. Hi there! I'm really excited about this video today because this is something I've been wanting to do on this channel for a little while. Today I'm beginning a series on my channel that I'm calling Witch School. And today's video is going to be about how to become a witch. Before I get too far in, I want to tell you guys a couple of things. First, most important thing you need to know is that I am a witch. I've been a practicing witch since age 16 and I'm almost 30 now, but I do not identify myself as being a Wiccan. I'm a witch, but I am not a Wiccan. When you hear me speak about my craft, you might think there are elements of it that remind you of Wicca, but at my deepest parts of my soul, I just don't consider myself a Wiccan. So if you're looking for advice on Wicca, I suggest you move on from this channel because I don't want to spread misinformation, and if I'm not a Wiccan, there's no guarantee I'll get it right. So instead go to someone like Harmony Nice. She has an entire playlist on her channel just about Wicca and learning how to be a good practicing Wiccan, and she can help you on that path much better than I could. The second thing I want to let you know before we delve too far in is a little disclaimer, which is I am a witch, but I am one witch of thousands and thousands in the entire world, and the way I practice my craft might not be the same way you practice yours, and that does not make me wrong. It does not mean I don't know what I'm talking about. It does not mean that I'm spreading misinformation. It just means that I practice it differently than you. Just like you going on your channel and speaking about how you practice it and being different from how I do doesn't mean that you're wrong. So please be kind and respectful in the comments. You're more than welcome to tell me about the way that you practice witchcraft, but please do not tell me or anyone else that they are wrong or that they are fake just because they're different than you. Now that all that's out of the way, we can actually begin. If you are interested in becoming a witch, chances are that for a good long time in your life, you've felt a very strong spiritual and heart connection to witchcraft and other witches. No matter how much or how little you understand of witchcraft, there was just something about it that drew you in and pulled you, even if you grew up in a family like I did, who was strongly against witchcraft and everything that it stands for, or that they perceive it to stand for. For example, as a baby, I got baptized as a Roman Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, very strict Catholic schools, I might add, and I was raised Catholic, and at around the age of 16 I started just realizing that it wasn't for me. There were a lot of elements to Catholicism that I just didn't personally agree with and that I wasn't comfortable with, and when you're practicing any belief system, whether it be witchcraft, Judaism, Islam, anything, when you're practicing any faith or any belief system, it should make you feel safe and happy and protected. And unfortunately, Catholicism just didn't do that for me at all. I constantly felt really anxious in the church. I didn't like going to the building. I didn't like talking to people about it. Everything about it just felt wrong. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with Catholicism, not at all. I have absolutely no issue with it, and I have no issue with anyone wanting to be Catholic, but for me it just didn't work, and I began discovering witchcraft, various forms of witchcraft. Obviously when I first started out I wasn't really sure which branch I would veer into, but as soon as I started to study witchcraft, I realized it brought me all those feelings of protection and love and happiness that I'd been craving for so long and not been able to get from Catholicism. So no matter what background you are part of, at some point in your life, chances are you just felt drawn in. And that's because, to a certain extent, you can't necessarily become a witch. You already have been one your entire life, you just didn't really realize it yet. And those feelings of belonging and being connected to witchcraft and to other witches was the spirit world's way of inviting you back in and saying, it's okay, we've got you, this is where you belong. Something else that I noticed, at least in my own personal journey, that I'm sure most of you noticed as well, and something that Actually, it's funny because Lady Guinevere on here, you should look her up, she has great videos and a great Facebook page. She brought this up in one of her videos, and I totally agree with it, that throughout your life you've been really drawn to otherworldly creatures. And I don't just mean like, oh, you like unicorn stuff because it looks cute, or you like fairies because you like Tinkerbell, or because you go through a fantasy phase when you're a teenager, as many teenagers do. I mean, it's deeper than that. You feel that they're really around you. You feel that they are real living creatures and that they are not fictitious at all. And when you do encounter them, either in real life, where you actually get to experience seeing them or hearing them, or, you know, knowing somehow in a psychic way that they're around you, or just seeing pictures of them or reading articles about them, when you are somehow around these otherworldly creatures, you feel this deep, intense love for them and understanding of them, like they're talking to you. You might be drawn to one otherworldly creature, you might be drawn to a few, you might be drawn to all of them. They're all kind of on their own tier, so to speak. Again, that's going to be later in this series, but they're from different worlds, just like we're from a different world than them in a certain sense. And the main way you become a witch is by feeling is that your connection to witchcraft and elements of being a witch is so unbelievably strong, and your thirst for being a witch is so unquenchable that you would literally put your life on the line to defend these creatures you love, to defend your craft, to defend your fellow witches. Why do you think so many of them were okay being burned one after the other? Well, not okay, but you know what I mean, like they knew that if they defended their sisters and brothers in the craft, they were probably going to die an awful death, probably after a lot of torture as well, and they still didn't care. They still defended each other all the way up to the death. You have to be prepared to do things like that. I know things are better these days than they were back in the Middle Ages, but guys, I have a lot of pagan websites on my Facebook page that I keep an eye on all the time, and like witch news and everything. People are still being killed for being witches across the world. People still don't understand it. They're still scared of it because that stigma still exists. And as a witch, one of your main goals in life needs to be to erase that misinformation and erase all those negative stereotypes people have attached to us. You have to be prepared to help people understand what it's really about. Peace, love, kindness, protection. That is what you stand for as a witch, and that is what you have to help people see and understand. It takes a lot of courage to be a witch, and especially to be an open witch, whether it's online or in your real life or both, because some people will be willing to listen. They might be a little reluctant at first to listen to what you have to say as a witch, but they might sit down and let you explain yourself, and other people are gonna just dismiss everything you say no, 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 the devil's supposed to be attractive, like you're just trying to lure me in and you're actually evil. Some of them just aren't gonna listen to you, and it's gonna be really difficult. It requires a lot of courage and a lot of patience to be a witch, because so many people are just going to outright refuse to listen to you, and nobody likes that. Something else you need to understand about being a witch that a lot of people aren't very prepared for, I've noticed in my life when they come and ask me to teach them about my craft, is that this is obviously a lifelong journey, and it's a lifelong journey of learning. No matter what age you are, if you started practicing witchcraft as a toddler, as soon as you could speak and understand and go to school, and you are 75 years old now, you're still a learning witch. When you're on your deathbed, you're still a learning witch. You will never know everything there is to know about witchcraft, and literally every single day of your life you will learn something new about your craft. And you need to be open to listening to other people's information, other people's knowledge. I mean, up to last night. And around 1 in the morning, I was listening to a witch I hadn't heard speak before, and she threw some ideas out there, and I was like, hey, that actually makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about that before. You need to have that sense of wonder and that thirst for knowledge and that want to keep on learning throughout your life. Never ever as a witch assume that you know everything there is to know about Wicca or being a fairy witch or a dragon witch or anything witch. Never assume you know everything. You might know a fair amount, you might be more experienced than someone else, but that's just it. You're more experienced. You're not better. You don't know it all. And you need to be prepared to study every single day of your life and to practice your craft every single day of your life. I don't care how tired you are from the day. I don't care what's going on in your life right now. If you want to be a good practicing witch, you've got to be practicing it every day. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that every day you need to sit at your altar and do this entire ritual and all this spell work and read all these books. No, 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 not at all. I know sometimes you have a hard day at work or school and you're exhausted, or maybe you're sick, or you had a death in the family and you're going through something right now. Things happen, and the spirit world understands that completely. On days like that where you just cannot sit there and do rituals and spell work, that's okay. Make sure that you've got a bunch of books on your craft that are easily accessible, because if you're sick in bed or something, for example, and you don't want to leave the room and get everyone else sick, you can practice your craft by going online and listening to people on YouTube talking about their craft and the similarities to yours and the differences to yours. Or you can read a book while you're laying in bed waiting to get better and learn about maybe some different potions people have made that help you get over whatever illness you have. It doesn't have to be this long, like 3-hour study every single day like you're in university or something. It can just be something simple like that, but you should be practicing every day for the rest of your life. And kind of rolling back to what I said about needing a lot of patience to be a witch, you need to be prepared for the fact that things are not always going to go your way when you're trying to hone in your craft. Maybe you're having trouble learning all of the tarot cards or something, or you're trying to do tasseography and you're having trouble making any shapes out. Sometimes it just will not be your day, and when that happens, you can't get frustrated and just crumble about it. You've got two paths to go on when you're having a difficult time with your craft. You can either keep practicing that day or just move on to something else. Maybe you're practicing divination and you're having a lot of trouble with it. Try it again. If it's still just not happening, maybe it's just not a day for divination today. Go off to something else instead. But it does take a lot of patience. This will happen extremely often, that things just won't go the way that you were expecting them to, and you can't let it deter you. You can't let it upset you and make you feel like the witch's path isn't for me anymore, I suck at it. You don't suck at it, you're just not as experienced as some of the other witches online and in maybe your real life, and that's okay. We all start somewhere. I mentioned before that it takes a long time to become a witch, and that is extremely true. Something else again that I tell people, and they get a little scared when I say it, is that this is not a requirement. Nothing I say in this video or any of my videos is a requirement. It's just a suggestion, but I suggest spending between 1 and 5 years studying your craft before really putting it into practice. I suggest that when you decide, yes, the witch's path is right for me, that's what I want to do with my life, that you spend between 1 and 5 years learning everything you can about every single branch of witchcraft that you possibly can, and divination and spell work and all of it, before you really get into the nitty-gritties of practicing it, because it's going to take you a long time to decide what path is right for you. You might change your path even after you are an experienced witch. You still might change your path. You might switch up what deities you want to worship, if you want to worship deities at all, or what otherworldly creatures you want to work with. It's going to take a while for you to really decide what all you want to do in your path. So make sure you spend that good time studying before you try to get too far into it. Otherwise, you're just going to frustrate yourself. You're going to be like, I want to be, I don't know, I want to be a Wiccan, and you sit there practicing Wicca for like 6 months and then decide as soon as you see that sea witches exist, that works a lot better for you than what you've been practicing this whole time, and then you feel like you've wasted that time. Obviously, it's not a waste at all because you still learned another path, and it's important to understand and respect one another's paths, but it is going to frustrate you, and it is going to be hard if instead of studying everything and trying to pick and choose from that study, if you try to just dive into something because it seems cool, you're going to have some problems. So what can you do to study witchcraft before deciding what path you want to choose for yourself? There's a few resources that I think are extremely good, and I still use them in my own practice. One is YouTube, of course, and the internet. We are so lucky that we live in the technological age where the internet exists, because there is endless information out there on every single path that there is. Just be careful, guys, when you're online, whether you're reading an article or watching a YouTube video. Watch the video or read the article, but then make sure that you're cross-referencing things. If you watch someone's video and it seems very informative and you like everything they said, but then you find 5 articles that say something completely different, maybe that person didn't quite get all their information correct, or maybe they didn't speak well enough for you to really understand what they were saying. So just make sure online you're really cross-referencing all your information and making sure that someone's not trolling you or something, or they're not doing a satirical video, or they're not just, you know, a beginner who's trying to offer way more information than they should be yet. For books, books are a great resource, but when you're looking at books to learn the craft from, I have 2 important tidbits that you need to know. One is, make sure the book was written by a witch. It sounds obvious, but it sucks that people are labeling witchcraft and paganism and New Age as something that is profitable now, and there are very highly saturated markets out there with people who know nothing about witchcraft just putting together a book of basic information they think might be right that usually isn't, and sticking a cool cover on it, and then beginner witches go out expecting the information to be true, because it should be. It should be a resource that new witches can get a hold of easily and access easily, but it's not now. So just make sure that when you're looking for a book, if one seems interesting to you, you utilize that internet and make sure that the author of the book is a practicing witch as well, and that they seem like a reliable source. And as far as where to get your books from, I know that it's a little scary thinking of getting all these books from different branches of witchcraft while you're trying to decide what path you want to take, but abebooks.com is my favorite resource because it is essentially a used bookstore online, and you can get books on witchcraft from like $2 that are usually $25, and it's so nice because I believe once I got 10 books in one go, and it ended up costing me like $30, which brand new in store would have been 2 of those 10 books. So abebooks.com is a great place to get your witchy books from, and they have everything from like the oldest old to the newest new, so it's really helpful, and I suggest using that if you don't have a big budget to start. And your last point of reference, which is one of my favorites, is people that are in pagan and witch groups or stores nearby you. Yeah, you might have to drive out about an hour and a half to meet them, because that's just what happens sometimes. But if you're really serious about it and you actually want to learn from someone in person instead of just on the screen, it's great to look for those groups. Check Facebook in your county that you live in. There should be one someplace that meets up monthly or so, or for Sabbats and stuff. And if you can't find that, chances are you are somewhere in the vicinity of a metaphysical shop. Again, it might take you a while to drive there, but it's worth it. Even if you're unable to make the journey super often, you can always ask them if they can do some kind of email correspondence with you. Tell them that you're interested in learning more and that you're very serious about it, and chances are if they have the time, they will try to work with you and help you out. And the last most important thing about no matter what way you try to learn, never take a single person's word as law, because all of us are different, we all practice differently, and you don't want to get sucked into one tiny void when there's all this information out there that you won't be letting yourself have a chance to see. Now that all that's out of the way, I'm going to give you the do not list of becoming a witch, because that's just as important. I understand some of the stuff in this list will sound obvious, but trust me, I have seen firsthand a lot of people do these things. Do not believe that anything you see on TV or in the movies is a good representation of witchcraft. You can still enjoy it if it's taken as fiction, but don't believe that it will help you on your path. I don't care how hard people try to make things accurate in movies and on TV. At the end of the day, it's Hollywood, and Hollywood wants things glamorized and they want things dramatized, so it is not going to be a good, accurate representation. Yes, the things you see on TV and in movies do come from some part of witchcraft, such as pointing your finger, using a wand, using a cauldron, magic. All of that does come from real life, but it does not work the same way, and it can in some ways be dangerous to take that as factual in any way, because it's very incorrect, and you don't want to practice incorrectly because you could get yourself hurt spiritually, physically, however. So no matter how much you love a TV show or a movie, don't assume that anything they're showing in it is correct. Do not try to become a witch over a fandom. This happens more often than you would think. People who love Harry Potter, people who love The Craft, people who love Sabrina, they all get excited when they hear I'm a witch and say, I love Sabrina, that show is so cool, can you teach me how to do like the stuff that they do on there? And I'm like, guys, it's a fandom. It's fine to love a fandom. You can even be a witch and love watching The Craft or Sabrina or something as just a form of entertainment. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But this kind of circles back to the first point again. It's fiction, you guys. Do not become a witch over a fandom. That is not the right reason to do it. You should do it because you have a deep love for it and it is the path you are meant to be on. This is something you are going to practice for the rest of your life and your lives after this life. You do not want to write a check to the spirit world that they can't cash. That's not a good idea. Be careful and take time considering every angle and exploring everything that could go wrong before working with trickster or dark entities. This is one of the scariest things that I encounter online. I can't believe how many dozens and dozens, especially of young people I see doing this online, that decide they are going to pledge allegiance to trickster gods and to darker entities, darker fae, darker elves, Loki, dragons, when they have absolutely no idea how to work with these energies. These creatures are different from the lighter creatures that you'll work with in many, many ways. No, they are not evil, far from it. They are not evil in any way, but they can and will take advantage of you if you have no idea what you're doing. And so many of these kids are just like drawing Loki looking a lot like he does in the Marvel movies and the Marvel comics, and then saying like, I want Loki to help me ace my test or to get rid of that guy I don't like or something. I'm like, do you understand the potential repercussions of invoking a trickster god or a dark entity to do your bidding? That is absolutely going to blow up in your face. Please, for goodness sakes, do not invoke or work with any dark energies or any trickster gods or creatures without 1,000,000% understanding what you're signing up for. It takes a lot of practice and years of understanding to work with creatures like that.